Title: That Night I Met Her. I wasn't born in Japan. I moved to Tokyo about a year ago, chasing a dream of experiencing the vibrant city life. By day, I worked as an English tutor for kids. By night, I picked up shifts at a cozy cafe in Shinjuku to make ends meet. My Japanese wasn't perfect, but I'd learned enough to get by. Most days, life was busy but manageable. But that night changed everything. It was late October, and the nights were growing colder. I had just finished my shift at the cafe, wiping down tables and locking up. It was 11 p.m. when I stepped out into the chilly air, pulling my jacket tight around me. My apartment wasn't far, just a 15-minute walk. Normally, I'd stick to the brightly lit streets, but I'd been working overtime and wanted to get home quickly. So, I decided to take the shortcut, through that alley. The alley was quiet, lined with old buildings and barely lit by a flickering streetlight. I had walked this way before, but something about it felt off that night. As I stepped further in, the air grew heavier. It was a silence so profound that even my footsteps felt deafening. I told myself to hurry. That's when I saw her. A woman was standing in the middle of the alley, her back to me. She wasn't moving, just standing there, her beige coat swaying slightly in the still air. My first thought was concern. Maybe she was lost or needed help. I hesitated, but decided to call out in my broken Japanese, "Sumimasen, daijoubu desu ka?" Excuse me, are you okay? She didn't answer. Slowly, almost mechanically, she turned around. Her face was partially covered by a surgical mask, a common sight in Japan, especially during flu season. Her hair was long and dishevelled, and her eyes, they were lifeless, cold, empty. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity before speaking in a soft, sing-song voice. "Am I beautiful?" I froze. Her question caught me off guard. Was this some kind of prank? My instincts screamed at me to walk away, but I didn't want to appear rude. Forcing a smile, I replied, "Yes, you're beautiful." She tilted her head slightly, as if analysing my answer. Then she reached up and pulled down her mask. Her face, her mouth, it was slit open from ear to ear, the jagged edges of her wound glistening in the dim light. I felt bile rise in my throat as she smiled, a grotesque, unnatural grin that stretched impossibly wide. "What about now?" she asked, her voice lower, darker, echoing in a way that didn't belong in the real world. I couldn't move. My legs were cemented to the ground, my breath caught in my chest, and the only thing I managed to do was shake my head. Her smile grew wider, if that was even possible, and I swear I saw her eyes glimmer with satisfaction. Then she took a step toward me. That was enough to snap me out of my paralysis. I turned and ran as fast as I could. I didn't look back, didn't stop, not even when I reached the main road. My lungs burned and my legs felt like jelly, but I kept running until I reached my apartment. Once inside, I locked the door and collapsed on the floor, my heart pounding like a drum. In the silence of my tiny room, her voice echoed in my head. Beautiful or not, they all die. The next morning, I told my co-workers about what happened. They laughed, saying, "Oh, you met Kuchisake-onna. She's just a legend. You were probably just tired or imagining things." But they didn't understand. I wasn't imagining it. I can still feel her eyes on me, especially when I walk home late at night. And sometimes, when I pass an alleyway, I think I hear her voice, calling me back. Outro for the video. Moving to a new country comes with its share of challenges, but no one ever warned me about this. Do you believe in urban legends like Kuchisake-onna? Maybe it's just a story to scare people, or maybe it's not. Either way, if you ever hear her question, choose your answer carefully, and pray she lets you live.